The Seattle Seahawks just won it all, and instead of popping champagne for months, they're already moving like the league owes them another ring. Confetti's barely swept off the field, parades wrapped up, and this front office treats the trophy like yesterday's news. Nobody saw this kind of hunger coming so fast after lifting the Lombardi. They're not celebrating the past, they're hunting the future, and that shift alone should make every other team nervous. Look at the pieces still locked in place. Sam Darnold finally clicked into a system that lets him breathe, read, and strike without second-guessing every snap. And the weapons around him know the rhythm by heart. Kenneth Walker keeps pounding the rock, turning tough drives into something defenses dread. While guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba stretch the field in ways that make secondaries panic. Flip to the other side, and Mike McDonald has this defense humming with Devin Witherspoon and Rick Woolen locking down outside, ready to pounce on any mistake. This isn't a one-hit wonder squad. This is a group that believes the window just cracked open wide, and they're sprinting through it before anyone else catches up. But the real spark isn't the stars everyone already knows. It's the quiet moves happening behind closed doors that tell you Seattle isn't satisfied with one parade. They're stacking the deck in ways most teams won't notice until it's too late. And when you see how they're quietly rebuilding the bottom of the roster right now, you start wondering just how scary this thing can get. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Seahawks and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 200 likes on this video. 15 new names just got added to the Seahawks roster, and on paper it looks like nothing. No splashy headlines, no viral pressers, just a quick line buried in the transaction wire saying futures contracts. But dig into what that really means. These aren't charity invites. They're calculated bets on guys who can step in, give clean looks in practice, and maybe steal a job when the real bullets start flying. Seattle didn't wait for free agency chaos. They moved first, quietly. And that speed already puts them ahead of teams still replaying their own playoff exits. Most of the group comes from the practice squad world, players who already speak the language of this scheme and won't need hand-holding to get up to speed. Then you spot the ones that jump out. Cam Akers lands here after proving he can handle big moments and carry the load when the spotlight burns hottest. And Jones Jr., the guy who bounced through USC, Tennessee, Chicago, Jacksonville, Carolina, and New Orleans, shows up as battle-tested depth nobody had to overpay for. These aren't headline starters. They're insurance policies signed for pennies, turning potential weak spots into places where competition stays fierce all summer long. The smartest part is the mindset behind it all. No panic trades, no desperate overhauls. Just stacking bodies at positions that get worn down over 16 hard weeks, so when the inevitable hits, answers are already in the building. That kind of patience screams confidence. It says this front office knows one parade doesn't make a dynasty, and they're rebuilding the foundation before anyone else even starts looking. Which makes you wonder what happens when that same sharp eye turns toward the men calling the plays. One of the masterminds behind that explosive late-season surge just walked out the door. Clint Kubiak took the head coaching job in Las Vegas, and for most fresh champions, that kind of loss starts a slow bleed. Playbooks get rewritten, timing gets rusty, quarterbacks lose their comfort zone right when confidence finally locked in. Seattle could have panicked, chased big-name replacements, or let the system fracture. Instead, they doubled down on what already works, keeping the core voices who built the rhythm intact and refusing to let one exit unravel everything. Guys like Jake Peetz, Andrew Giannacco, Justin Outen, John Benton, and M. Brown aren't lighting up headlines, but they were in the room when Kenneth Walker started closing out drives, and Jackson Smith and Jigba looked unstoppable again. They helped craft the language, the footwork, the trust that turned Sam Darnold from question mark into weapon. Promoting from inside means no crash course for the quarterback, no forced adjustments for the skill players who finally synced up. The scheme stays alive, the timing carries over, and the offense walks into next season speaking the same dialect that carried them through January pressure. That choice to protect continuity over chasing flash sends a clear signal. This isn't about surviving one title, it's about making sure the identity that clicked doesn't vanish because someone got a bigger title somewhere else. When the people who know the system best stay put, The whole operation keeps its edge. And if they're this deliberate about holding the offense together, imagine what kind of pull they're building when it comes to adding elite minds on the defensive side of the building. A coach who had defensive coordinator offers on the table from serious contenders like the Chargers just said no to running his own unit. Zach Orr turned down the chance to call plays for an entire defense and instead walked straight into Seattle to coach the inside linebackers. That decision doesn't happen by accident. When someone with his kind of buzz chooses a position group role over a bigger title, it tells you everything about how he sees the path ahead in this building. He's not settling. He's betting on something bigger brewing here. Orr brings the exact kind of brain that modern offenses hate most. He spent time prepping for coordinator jobs, so he knows the tricks coordinators use to attack the middle. The quick game wrinkles, the play-action freezes that punish linebackers who hesitate. Now, all that knowledge pours directly into one room. The inside linebackers get sharper key reads, faster triggers on the run, cleaner drops in coverage because the guy teaching them already thinks like the enemy. On Sundays, the box score won't credit him with scheme design, but the tape will show his influence in every gap filled, every route passed off without panic. This hire isn't just filling a spot. It's proof the Seahawks are pulling top-tier talent inward instead of losing it outward. A coach like Orr sees long-term runway in Mike Macdonald's vision, and he's willing to grind in the trenches to help build it. That kind of attraction creates momentum. When ambitious minds start choosing Seattle over flashier gigs, the defense doesn't just stay good. It evolves into something even harder to prepare for. And if the staff is this locked in on the back seven, the front office has every reason to go hunting for pieces that make the pass rush impossible to ignore. The toughest calls in any championship offseason aren't about adding new faces. They're about refusing to let the ones who carried the heaviest load slip away. Kenneth Walker isn't just a running back who piles up yards. He's the guy who turned grinding possessions into momentum killers, gave the offense a physical identity when everything else felt shaky, and let the play-action game breathe easier. Locking him up long-term doesn't just keep production. It tells Zach Charbonnet he's got a true partner in the backfield, reassures Sam Darnold the ground attack that protected him stays priority one, and reminds the entire locker room this organization rewards the heart that won the ring. On the back end, the math gets even clearer with Kobe Bryant and Rick Woolen. Kobe Bryant stepped up as the steady hand in the secondary, solving problems on the fly when injuries thinned the group and showing what real leadership looks like in coverage and communication. Rick Woolen brings that rare combination of length, speed, and instincts that already fits Mike Macdonald's aggressive vision like it was drawn for him, even if the occasional gamble shows up on tape. Betting on their next few years inside a proven scheme costs far less than watching elite traits walk to free agency and force a rebuild from scratch. These extensions aren't thank you gifts. They're investments in keeping the defensive identity sharp and growing. Every signature on those deals sends the same loud message. Seattle isn't rebuilding around new stars. They're building around the ones who already proved they can handle the brightest lights and the tightest moments. When the core stays put, confidence doesn't reset. It compounds. And once those foundational pieces are safe, the front office can turn its full attention to upgrading the trenches in ways that make the entire operation feel unstoppable from the first snap. The line that protects Sam Darnold and opens holes for Kenneth Walker has been solid. But solid isn't the goal anymore. Seattle is chasing control, the kind that starts every snap on their terms instead of reacting to chaos. That's why names like Tyler Linderbaum keep surfacing in serious conversations. A center with his snap accuracy, quick feet, and ability to anchor against bull rushes would lock the pocket tighter, make run blocking feel automatic, and give the quarterback cleaner windows before pressure even builds. Bringing in someone proven at that level doesn't patch a weakness. It erases it and turns the interior into a strength that dictates tempo. The beauty of landing a player like that ripples everywhere else up front. Jalen Sundell slides over to guard, where he can unleash his power and aggression without the extra responsibility of calling protections. That opens real battles with Anthony Bradford, Olu Oluwadami, and the rest of the young group fighting for every rep. Nobody sleeps through camp when the standard jumps overnight. Competition sharpens technique, raises effort, and builds depth that holds up through the grind of a full season. The run game that found its rhythm late last year could dominate from week 1. And the play-action shots that crush defenses in the playoffs become the default threat instead of a surprise package. If Baltimore holds on to their guy, the plan doesn't collapse. A veteran like Connor McGovern steps in as the reliable bridge, handling calls with calm experience while the younger pieces keep developing. Either path shows the same hunger. This front office refuses to settle for good enough in the trenches. They're hunting upgrades that make every phase smoother, every drive longer, and every opponent more miserable. When the line starts winning before the ball is even snapped, the entire offense operates on a different level. And if they're willing to push that hard up front, the defense has every green light to go hunting for edges that make quarterbacks miserable from the jump. Even with a ring still fresh on their fingers, this defense refuses to coast on last year's pressure numbers. Mike Macdonald's group already forced mistakes and hurried throws, but the next step looks crystal clear. Turn the edge into a nightmare that quarterbacks feel before the play clock even hits 0. Seattle isn't tearing things down to start over. They're hunting targeted pieces that slide right into the gaps, add speed off the corner, and make every third down feel like a countdown to disaster. And veteran edges keep popping up in the mix for good reason. Dante Jones comes in after getting his legs back with Tennessee and Baltimore, bringing the kind of bend and power that fits the scheme without needing a long learning curve. Odafe Owe carries similar appeal, a guy who already understands the rush lanes and hand usage Macdonald demands, ready to create chaos without reinventing his game. These aren't blockbuster gambles requiring massive capital. They're smart additions that stack problems on top of an existing foundation, forcing offensive lines to account for more threats and opening lanes for the guys already thriving inside. Then the conversation always circles back to the one name that could flip the entire room. Max Crosby in Seattle would be the kind of seismic shift that changes how offenses game plan from day one. Picture him rushing alongside Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu, and Boy Mafe. That's not depth, that's suffocation. It would demand real assets to pull off, but the payoff matches the ambition. A front this loaded doesn't just generate sacks. It dictates fear, shortens fields, and gives the secondary easier windows to feast. When the pass rush starts winning the war of wills early, the whole defense operates with a different swagger. And that kind of relentless pressure makes you realize this team isn't done building. They're just getting started on the kind of legacy that turns one title into conversations about multiple. One quiet comment buried in the replies changed everything about how this run felt. A husband watched his wife battle through cancer treatments, endless hospital hours, on nights that dragged on after chemo left her drained. The only light he clung to week after week was the next Seahawks game, the hope that another win might stretch the escape a little longer. Playoffs extended the calendar. The championship push gave them 2 extra months of something positive to hold on to amid the fear. He mentioned saving for an Ernest Jones Super Bowl jersey to mark what the season meant. Reading that, someone decided it shouldn't fall on him alone. That jersey became a gift, a small gesture saying the fight mattered beyond the field. Stories like that remind you why the scoreboard only tells half the truth. Players like Sam Darnold, Kenneth Walker, Devin Witherspoon, Kobe Bryant, Rick Woolen, and Julian Love stopped being just names on a roster. But they turned into anchors for people carrying heavier loads than any fourth-quarter comeback. Every tackle, every first down, every stop became proof that grit still wins. That belief can shift the script when life feels stacked against you. A team that started the year with question marks ended up woven into real lives, offering distraction, pride, and sometimes the tiniest spark needed to keep going. That connection doesn't fade when the confetti settles. It lingers. Now the clock ticks toward pick 32, and the front office stares at prospects who could carry the next chapter. A name like Akeem Mesidor, the pass rusher out of Miami, who grinded in the shadows of flashier teammates but never stopped showing up, fits the mold perfectly. Hungry, relentless, ready to step into a room full of winners and earn every snap. When that kind of young talent walks through the door, it's not just another body for the rotation. It's the promise of fresh stories, new jerseys on backs that need hope, another layer added to a culture that's already proving it can inspire far beyond Sundays. If year one after the ring feels this deep, this connected, the league better brace itself. Because Seattle isn't chasing another title. They're building something that echoes for a long time.